We're out to dinner with my dad one night and he goes, why don't you start a temp agency for title people? Well, that's the idea. It's a big celebration when we build $1 million one week. So we were at about like highest year was almost 50 million. We sold to a public company called Hall Kenyon. Then they sold to Kforce. They did get to 100 million in our division. Because don't want to be dramatic, but like I almost lost my baby because I was working so hard. I've sold a few companies. And one thing that I've learned is that
Welcome back to the Kickstart Podcast. On this episode, we have the pleasure of hosting Diane, a serial entrepreneur who sold a business for $28 million. She now helps people scale their businesses and achieve the success that she was able to in the recruitment sphere. Diane, so excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your time.
hey, Preston, great to be here. Hey, Ryan.
So I guess a fitting way to get started, Diane, is just giving it back to you. For those who are unfamiliar with your background, would you just mind sharing a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that is a little bit different about me is that, most people say they got into recruiting accidentally, and I got into it very intentionally. I got into it because I wanted to build a business. This is with my then husband. We wanted to build a business that we could scale and exit, like not having any entrepreneurial or really much life experience at that point. Yeah, so I got into it really intentionally because we were trying to figure out what kind of business could you do that would that work? And so a lot of brainstorming, trying to figure it out. So that's how we arrived at staffing. That's how I got into the business. And yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
That's
I'm curious, Diane. There's so many businesses out there you could start with the goal of, I'm going to sell, I'm going to exit. What made recruiting or staffing come to you guys as like, this is the one for us?
I think it was just like kind of the idea that came up. And it was also the niche also came with the idea. So it was like everything kind of came together. It wasn't so much that we said, okay, let's start a staffing agency. It was, we were very niche. We did title insurance people and then later escrow and mortgage. And my dad worked in title insurance. And he said, because we were always talking about like, okay, what are we going to do? Like what kind of business? And then, kind of had to go through that filter. Like, is this scalable? Is this something that we could exit? And then we're out to dinner with my dad one night and he goes, why don't you start a temp agency for title people? Well, that's the idea.
Gotcha. So it was temp, not the direct placement side. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Gotcha. Super interesting. And so at the peak, what was like the revenue for the business? How many employees did you have in the business? Would you be able to share a little bit more color about that? I'm curious.
Yeah, the peak. Well, when we got to our $1 million week, that was amazing. So we already it was a big celebration when we build $1 million one week. So we were at about like highest year was almost 50 million, and then like 35 million was kind of normal, but it took us 6 years to get there. So and we had about anywhere between six and a little under 800 contractors working at any given time. And once we were like after about 3 years.
So interesting. So if you were to be able to go back in time, then would you have still sold it? Because a lot of people making, 7, 8 kind of figures in terms of revenue per year, they have a fantastic life too. Are you struggling with getting responses from clients? Are you an established recruiter who is struggling to break 6 figures and beyond? Are you looking to start recruiting part-time and you don't know how? Do you feel burned out and stuck spending hours and hours each day in manual tasks like sourcing and outreaching and feeling like you have no time to actually run and grow your business? I am absolutely happy to announce that we have launched our own recruitment, educational, and coaching program to help you on your journey. We made sure that everything I've learned in the past 10 years, the tips, the strategies that really helped me build multiple 7 figures of placements on my own desk with some of the best companies in the world will be included in there. We'll also be including things like how you can build an acquisition system that brings in clients every month to your agency hands-free, how you can maximize the probability of a positive close during negotiations, how you can automate and outsource your day-to-day operations so that you don't have to spend hours per day researching or sourcing, how you can figure out the new and modern way to scale your agency that minimizes risk and maximizes your upside potential. And we've also included much, much more. The best thing about this is not only will you be getting amazing content, but we will also handhold you and be with you every step of the way to make sure that you are held accountable and you crush your goals. We'll also share with you our own tech stack, tools, and plugins we actually use, plus everything else we know about automation and AI to help you save time, work smarter, and not be a slave to your business. The exciting news is that we've actually rolled this out to a select few people earlier this year, and I'm excited to see them well on the way to multiple 6 figures, with some breaking $30,000 to $50,000 per month already. So if you're interested to be a successful recruiter that can dominate in any market conditions, make sure you click on the link below to chat with another member of our team, and we're happy to chat with you to see if we can help you out. Make sure you jump on this really quickly. See you on the other side. So if you were to be able to go back in time, then would you have still sold it? Because a lot of people making, 7, 8 kind of figures in terms of revenue per year, they have a fantastic life too. And for a lot of people initially, they come in, they build a business with the intent to exit, and they're like, hold on a second, maybe I don't have to, maybe I can hold on to this, maybe I can have a fantastic life, or maybe I can reallocate like the cash that we're basically producing into other ventures, into other businesses. So was that ever like a conversation with you and your husband? Or were you guys just really just crystal clear on let's grow it, let's exit, walk away, possibly rinse and repeat?
Yeah, we were really clear on that. And I mean, there were times where I had some regrets afterwards because we sold to a public company called Hall Kenyon, then they sold to Kforce. They did get to 100 million in our division because they ran it under our name for a while, under Kforce On Staff, it was called. So yeah, but also I think there's different personalities because there's people who started when we started who are still doing it and they're, billion-dollar companies. Like Ben Roth is an example of ultimate staffing. Like he started, I think, a little bit before we did. And also Janice Howroyd from Apple One. I mean, she's phenomenal. She's, billionaire. And I don't know, like, I guess I try not to have regret or change the past, but I think, that's just my personality is I love building scalable things and moving on to other things.
Because people talk a lot in the entrepreneurial world that you can have a massive exit, same like yours, but then the next day, once that kind of dies down, you're like, what do I do in life now? So did you guys immediately have a plan afterwards? Or was there kind of like, you just enjoyed life a little bit? Or did you perhaps like a, post-exit semi like life crisis? And you're like, what do we do with our life now? We have no northern compass. What was your mindset like?
We did have a post-exit plan and did not follow it. And we were pretty stupid. I mean, 33, it's not that young, but that's how old we were. So yeah, I mean, we made really stupid decisions, but I mean, yeah, like our plan was, okay, we're going to just save this money and retire and, live off, kind of live like low. Did not do that. And we started another company. We did exit that other company too, but I don't know, made a lot of stupid mistakes in my 30s.
What did you feel like you did differently? Like what separated you from other similar agencies in the same space, or maybe in other industries that allowed you guys to scale so fast in 6 years? So in other words, what do you think kind of made you and your husband and your team top performers that was able to kind of let you guys just produce very, very impressive numbers?
Well, one, we were super driven and we were just had similar vision. And then people that we brought on, we had a team of advisors and we met with them every quarter who also knew what our goal was. So one of our advisors was an investment banker. So we'd sit down with him every quarter and say, okay, this is where we're at. What do you think we should do next? And then I was pregnant with my first kid and I was on bed rest because I was working 80 hours a week. Then we brought in someone who became our president. So we started bringing in key employees. So that was part of it, was our team. We built an exceptional team. That was a big part of our success. And everyone in our team that we brought on, I truly believe that everyone in a startup that you bring on has to have a strong reason of being there. Otherwise, it's easy for them to leave, right? Because things got rough a few times and, and I think people would have left if they hadn't been like so tied in and their vision was tied in, even though it was a different vision. So that was part of it, is the way that we built our team. And also we were relentless. And I think it was another advantage, honestly, that we didn't have experience because we were just like, we just tackled things, we just did whatever seemed to make sense. And the niche was also very helpful.
I think I want to also dive into really quickly the drive piece you said of like, that's what sets you guys apart. Like, I'm curious to know, like, where do you think that came from? Like, to be able to wake up day in, day out for 6 years and be like, we are building this business to sell. Like, I'm sure you had some highs, some lows. Like, where did that drive come from to keep you guys just chugging along despite all that going on?
Probably some kind of sickness.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still that way right now. Like I'm still, so it's like, I don't know. I think it's just personality. And also, I guess I would say too, Ryan, like, knowing our why, like knowing we really knew what our goal was, like we really had that end game in mind. But also then just what I realized, because I had never been an entrepreneur before, neither was he. And, for me, I just realized how much I loved that, like how much I loved, I wasn't passionate about temps for title insurance, but I became passionate about building the business. That to me was just so fun. It's like every step putting a piece, it's like another puzzle piece and whatever, and we made a ton of mistakes. Yeah. I don't know why, but I still do stuff like that. I'm still very driven and I'm much older. So.
Yeah. I mean, I still feel this just energy, just even talking to you and hearing you speak. You're clearly very passionate and you work very, very hard. But just to give like the audience more of a contextual understanding and they're like, oh my God, if Diane can sell her business, I can do it too. But let's be real for a second. So like when you were kind of in the trenches, what was your day-to-day kind of business hours, work hours? Did you work weekdays only? Did you work on the weekends? Or perhaps you followed a strict 9 to 5, like, or did you work just 24/7 all the time, every time?
Yeah, pretty much the latter. We worked all the time.
Yeah,
we did. And then until we started bringing people in, because that is why, don't want to be dramatic, but like I almost lost my baby because I was working so hard. And so it was like, I really, for a while had no, like, I don't know, that's all I was doing. But then that was a huge sign. And then that's also like what helped our growth, because that caused us to then bring on other key executives that really did help us to grow. And that's why we we were able to exit.
That's amazing. Do you think it's easier or harder to sell a company in 2025 than when you did it?
I think and I've sold a few companies. And one thing that I've learned is that there's always a really specific reason why the buyer buys a company. So there's all sorts of different reasons. So I don't know the answer if it's easier or harder now. I sometimes publish a list of 225 staffing agency exits over the last 3 years. It's interesting to look, like if you look at Crunchbase, or I think it's really interesting to see because it's still like there's still a lot of M&A and acquisition activity in the industry, but not so much for direct. It's really staffing. Staffing really has that recurring revenue value where you can exit.
So you have experience building and scaling multiple businesses, and now you're spending most of your time right now helping other businesses scale, right? And I think one of your businesses to really kind of implement the infrastructure, leveraging kind of international talent or VAs or similar talent equivalent to that. So what kind of inspired you to do that? Was there like a clear pain point that you saw throughout your kind of previous entrepreneurial experiences, and what kind of drove you to make that decision?
And this one came about a little differently because I knew I wanted to start something again. And I've always loved coaching and that kind of thing. So what I decided to do though was I started with the coaching business. I just kind of threw it out there and said, hey, I'm coaching. Don't know exactly what it looks like. It's $6,000 every 90 days. And people started paying. That was not my end goal. My end goal was to build a scalable business. So I thought, okay, this is going to be my MVP. This is my minimum viable product is coaching because I can get clients quickly. I'm actually spending these like kind of intimate conversations with my ideal clients. And then I'll figure out from there what value I can bring and what people really need. I was coaching all kinds of founders, like startup tech founders, even like retail store owners, all sorts of different kinds of founders. Then I really niched and I decided, okay, let's follow my own advice and niche. So I started niching and staffing and recruiting. And then I've also really been interested in figuring out how to best work with offshore talent in a way that like, if I could build a business where I can clearly articulate my vision and then have other people execute it, then that's the dream, right? So anyway, so I set out to do that and it's just kind of led us to this juncture. And now we have the A team and they're phenomenal.
I actually love international talent personally, right? So in your experience, what do you think is the best use case for international talent versus domestic talent?
Yeah, really anything that doesn't need to be done in person. You can find exceptional people internationally that can do almost anything, really. If it doesn't need to be done in person, I think you can find an international person to do it for you.
It's super interesting. And I guess like from your vantage point, for someone who's been very active in the staffing recruitment industry, how do you think, like if you were to maybe use one or two words to describe the industry word it's right now compared to your first foray into it, like what would you say? What are the biggest differences that you're seeing in their industry now that just wasn't prevalent before?
It's funny because everybody talks about AI and is it going to replace us? And when I first started, it was like everybody was worried about monster.com. Then everybody was worried about LinkedIn, and people like literally would not let their employees go on LinkedIn because they were so afraid of it. It's so similar because I feel like, people ask like, how is AI changing recruiting? And I'm like, we've been having these conversations for 30 years, only just like fill in the blank in the technology. But one difference is there are so many competitors now. And maybe there were before, but you just didn't see them all over the place because you weren't online and you just didn't know what everybody else was doing like we do now. There were no resources then. We actually bought, do you remember those Dummies books? Like the guy.
Oh yeah.
We actually bought How to Start a Temp Agency for Dummies.
Oh my God. That's amazing. I hope you still have it, by the way. Maybe perhaps you framed it on the wall or something.
Out of print. I'm so bummed.
I feel like I already see the LinkedIn post. Step 1, temp agencies for dummies. Step 2, $28 million exit. That's it.
That's it. That's Diane's 2-step coaching mastermind. I'll pay whatever you want, Diane. I'll pay you. I want to know. That's
awesome.
Incredible. Honestly, though, what are your thoughts of like AI and how do you think that's going to have an impact in our industry?
Yeah, AI, like who knows what's even going to happen? It was when I was in high school, I could not even fathom what the internet meant or, that was just an idea. So I really think we just don't know. But like for today, one thing I love is staying relevant and adapting the new technology. There's so many things. I don't know if you saw my LinkedIn post today, but I wrote a comedy skit. Did you see that? I said a comedy skit about recruiting or, knowing. So, there's so many things, which was amazing because I've been trying to write comedy forever and I haven't been able to get it down. And then I just thought yesterday, I'm like, wait, there's a formula to this. Let me ask ChatGPT. And all of a sudden, like within seconds, I had this hilarious skit. So So I think really like for now, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. We might all, turn into robots and, singularity might come to, who knows, that could happen. But for today, I'm really enjoying using AI and tools that just to make our lives easier. And it also really does give small agencies a way to compete with the bigger agencies. And there's so many different startup tools now, like Juicebox for sourcing or, like Apollo instead of ZoomInfo. And a lot of people who are starting agencies, they think that they need the expensive tools that are at a big agency or that they need. There's so many accessible choices. But one other thing is with your tech stack, I think that now a really important role to have is an engineer who can actually, whether it's fractional, if you're a smaller business, a fractional engineer who can help you to put together your tech stack and your automations and things like that, because that takes a long time. So you really do need someone to help you keep up with the technology.
I think technology will play more of a larger role in our day-to-days for sure. But even kind of going back to what you said about the big guys, there are still enterprise, mid-size, large agencies out there that are still doing everything manually, right? So they're still tossing around like paper resumes, still kicking it as if it's in the aughts or the 90s or 80s, and they're still crushing it. And so I love the fact that like the technology evens the playing field more for sure, especially for the young guys or for like the smaller teams. But like, my goodness, I mean, if larger companies can just dedicate a fraction of their resources to automation, like it could just, 10x their efficiency, right? But some of them are just too afraid of it, or maybe they're dubious and they're like, AI and automation just doesn't have a place in our business. And if it's working, it's working type of thing.
Well, when you have so many layers, it's a lot to move, to adjust and move your ship. So at a staffing industry analyst conference in like around, it was like 2011, I think, I was talking to one of the C-suite executives at Kelly Services. He was talking about was how he wished like they were trying to figure out how to get back to that boutique feel because they were not like, no one was making a profit. Like the big agencies were all like just taking losses and like doing these like crazy accounts where they were losing money just so they could get market share. So yeah, and I think there are a lot of advantages to being little.
And going off of that, also going back to your point about LinkedIn and the tools we use, I know, as you mentioned, Diane, you are a frequent poster on LinkedIn. I love the content you post, first of all, but I wanted to ask your thoughts on the place that posting on LinkedIn has for recruiters, especially some of the smaller folks, right, that don't have the brand name or a public company behind them. And so what would be your advice for a recruiter from a small team or even a solo recruiter trying to expand, their client base? Is LinkedIn like a good route for that when it comes to like posting regularly? I'd be curious to hear your thoughts.
LinkedIn's a great route if done correctly, if done right. And not that there's a correct way, but I think the incorrect way is to try to follow influencers who have formulas. I don't know, but I'm guilty of trying that every time they fall flat. What I believe is the best method that I've seen work, and I teach on this, and when my clients do it, it really seems to work. Go to places like Reddit, figure out exactly what your ideal client is saying, like in their own words, in places that's anonymous. So they're actually like talking from the heart. Use that to get into their minds and then post content on LinkedIn that you can even, use the same words that you're seeing on Reddit, use their words and really tap into the things that matter to them. That's how you get engagement on LinkedIn.
I like that. Because I feel like on LinkedIn, sometimes it feels like everyone's trying to put not like a mask on, but they're a little bit afraid to reveal them true selves. So I like the element of going to Reddit, like you said, a little more anonymous, where you get the true info, what they're really looking for.
Yeah, right. Because no one's really posting about their deepest, darkest fears on LinkedIn.
Exactly. Yep.
But if you can get to your clients' deepest, darkest fears, and then you can answer their questions on LinkedIn, that's where they're like,
there you go,
reading my mind,
How did Diane know that?
Yeah. And then what happens is people start, like when I started that strategy, then people started emailing me questions. So now my team, A-Team is my virtual assistant agency. And so my A-Team, like we have an entire huge bank that we call Voice of Customer. So every time somebody asks me a question, we all record all of it. That's what we use to create content, is actually what our clients need to know.
I love that.
For people who are building their businesses right now, and there's just in the business world and the entrepreneur world, there's a lot of opinions on exiting or not exiting. So in your opinion, and going back to us talking about the dummies, right? So to explain it simply in the dummy lingo, like what is the main difference of building a business to sell versus building a business to not to sell, right? Like, are you looking at different metrics? Are there different steps? Obviously, it's very helpful to have relationships with IB bankers or PE and people like that to be able to kind of help spark those discussions. But in terms of like just day-to-day operations, revenue, kind of profits, or just numbers you're looking at, what becomes top of mind for you?
Yeah, well, I recommend that people, whether you're you're looking to sell your business or not, I still recommend taking the steps that would make you attractive to a buyer, because if you consider yourself, you're going to own this asset, right? So like, why wouldn't you want to make it in a way that it's a valuable asset? So it would be the same, really a lot of the same structures or a lot of the same things you would put in place. So you want to have a stellar team. One of the things that people want to see when you're looking to sell are clean books. You want to have clean books anyway. So I would say the things that you would do to exit, you want to do for yourself, because if you decide to keep your business 20, 30, whatever years or pass it down, you want it to be an asset for you. So I would say do the same thing.
Gotcha. Is your current business, are you looking to, is that the plan again for you to be able to sell it? Or are you also maybe perhaps things are a little bit different? You want to build a business that lasts longer, same plan or different?
I don't know. Yeah.
Just
maybe.
TBD.
Yeah. That is, it could be part of the plan. I don't know yet. This time, I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun with it. We have office hours with our team, with the virtual assistants, and it's just so inspiring and they're amazing. And so, yeah, I don't know yet. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it really sounds like you're just having a blast, Diane.
Yeah.
You've done a lot. You've built a lot of different businesses. You've had a lot of great success. And it seems like you're really kind of focused on a business that you just very enjoy. You have a close-knit team and you're just kind of going with the flow, right? Kind of maybe more of a lower pressure type of vibe. And it's fantastic. So for people who are I guess in staffing recruiting now, who are maybe struggling or looking to get into the industry, where do you see a lot of recruiters or professionals kind of fall flat? Or another question to kind of follow that is, what would be maybe one or two easy things the audience can improve on to basically 10x their performance, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, falling flat, I would say, just with people not understanding that it takes time, because it does, and you might get lucky and you'll have some quick wins. You're going to probably have a combination of quick wins and then really slow ones. So it is a marathon and it's grinding every day. Most people ask me at least, questions about biz dev and getting clients, and just, say, oh, I reached out to them. I'm like, what does that mean? And they're like, I sent them an email. I'm like, that is you have to continue. There is, you really have to grind it out. I think there's a common sort of with all the coaches and influencers and things, there's a sort of idea that you shouldn't work a lot. You should, I mean, I truly believe in delegation. Obviously that's what A-Team is all about, but it's going to be hard work. Nobody builds an 8-figure business. Well, I don't know. Again, I don't know. Could be nobody I know has built an 8-figure business, and just, I mean, all the famous billionaires and things that I follow, they all hustled. So that's one thing I think that people have the misconception of, I should be able to, work 4 hours a week and not work.
Yeah, I think that'd be absolutely incredible if you can. We're not saying it's impossible, but I too have yet to meet someone that was able to scale a business to 8 or 9 figures plus.
I don't know. Do you really believe Tim Ferriss only works 4 hours? I don't know. I mean, he might. I don't know.
Ooh, Diane's calling you out, Tim.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's great that you said that, because you can learn the fundamentals, you can learn the best AI, the best tactics, you can learn how Boolean strings or whatever. But if you don't put the work in, it's just never going to amount to anything, right? And we get asked this a lot too. It's hey, can I build a successful business with 1 hour a day? And I'm like, do you want the honest truth? With me, I talk about this openly. Even just in the beginning as a solo recruiter, I had no plans to start an actual business, but even as a solo recruiter, I worked my butt off, right? 7 days a week. And I think for people who start businesses, especially intentionally with the intention to scale as fast as possible or even to exit, the first 3-4 years are just grinding, and you have to just be able to embrace that.
Yeah, there's going to be sacrifices. I mean, people ask me how I did it. I had 3 kids. People ask me how I did it. I mean, I had nannies and housekeepers, and you cannot do everything.
So what motivates you now, Dan? Why are you not, on the beach kicking it in Bahamas with your kids, enjoying the good life?
Well, my kids are grown, so.
Well, then I guess why are you not on a beach?
Yeah, I mean, I was last month, so I go to the beach sometimes, but I don't know. I love it. It's just a different stage. Like you mentioned, it's lower pressure now. It's just a different stage of my life. And I don't know, I guess what else would I do? I was mostly retired in my 30s, and that was great. I surfed and paddleboarded and, read a lot of novels and stuff like that. But yeah.
What are you most excited about for the future? It could be anything.
Oh gosh. Oh, I'm excited to see my kids grow, mature, and see them had the way that they navigate life as adults. That's really cool. And I'm really excited about the A-Team and this global team that we have. I mean, yesterday on our call, everyone went around and was introducing themselves and where they're from. And I didn't even know we had someone in South Korea. So, I mean, it was amazing. It was just so cool. And so that's exciting to me, is just seeing this team grow. And I love it, and just telling my team, I just tell them now, you guys make decisions, and I continue to learn a lot. I'm learning how to be a better manager. I'm learning how to be a better leader. I like staying relevant and learning. It's fun for me.
I think that's a common thread we've seen through a lot of these conversations conversations is we bring on folks like yourself, Diane, who've just been crushing it and they're just super impressive, these awesome backgrounds. And that's one thing we hear a lot is they're like, I'm not done learning. I have more to grow and learn. And I think that's really, inspiring, especially for myself as someone who's earlier, on it in my career, and to see, I still feel like every day I'm just like absorbing so much information. And it's cool to see that, other folks, that doesn't end, right? That is a continual lifelong process. So I think that's a really cool kind of common thread we've seen from the super, inspiring folks we've had the opportunity to chat with.
And I mean, like I cashed out at one point, but I mean, like look at, I don't know, oligarchs, like look at Jeff Bezos or like, they're not done. Like they're, I mean, I have like sort of tiny little fraction, in the grand scheme of things. So it's, yeah.
Do you feel like your mind's always racing?
Well, it used to be, but now I'm much more mellow now. So I do a lot of like meditation. So I read a lot. I read novels as well as business books because my mind I quit coffee for that reason because I just get really excited. So now in the mornings sometimes I even drink melatonin instead
of
gosh. So yeah, I guess my mind would race if not checked.
Wow. I love melatonin for sleep, but in the morning, oh my goodness, I don't know if I would function. But Diane, my mind races constantly. And so like the biggest challenge for me is always had difficulty sleeping. If I wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes that's it. I just have to stay up. And I've tried like meditating. It's just so hard. And so I guess, yeah, is meditation the solution or any other advice you have for folks like myself?
It's magnesium I take in the morning. I don't take melatonin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. I just realized. Correction. Fact check.
A little bit different.
Yeah.
But yeah, meditation, walking. I go for walks a lot. That's always helped me. Exercise. I have to exercise a lot. I've discovered pickleball, which is like crazy. Do you guys play pickleball?
Yeah. Not yet. I'm a huge tennis guy and I feel like I'm tracking that way.
It's coming soon.
It's coming.
When your courts will be converted, so you'll have to.
They're all converted already.
I mean, that, like, honestly, that has been so good for me because you play pickleball, Ryan?
I do. Yeah, here and there.
I feel like I can't think about anything else. So it's such a good stress relief. I'm focusing on other things and like I'm not good at it. So I'm trying to get the ball. So that helped. But really, I mean, those are the main things really. Like exercise is huge for me. And sleep, I have to get 8 hours. If I don't get 8 hours, I'm a total wreck.
For me, Dan, I swear by the sauna. I sauna every day. I don't know if you're into that, but it's the one place where I do something consistently. I don't have a phone, no computer by me. I just have to sit there with your thoughts. And I think that's as close as meditating as I get. But,
I've been cold plunging, but I haven't. Sauna sounds a lot more comfortable.
It is. So what does your day-to-day look like now? It seems like your team is practically autonomous. I see you post on LinkedIn. And so like, what do you spend most of your day doing? I know you said you're learning, but do you time block or is it more just every day is kind of flexible or what's the day in the life of Diane?
I do things like tell ChatGPT to write me stand-up comedy routines. Seriously, I'm really focused on empowering my team. So besides like telling them to make decisions and things, but I also like with our VAs as we grow, like we just had a job fair in Manila. I wasn't there at that one, but I want to be at the next one. And so what I'm really passionate about right now is making sure that our virtual assistants, which is kind of a weird word, but our offshore people, to make sure that they have the best opportunities because for them, so that they're not hustling for like we bring the clients, right? And just really setting them up for success and teaching them. So I'm coaching them how to work with our clients strategically. And that's been so rewarding. I mean, it's been incredible. Like working with our people in the Philippines, teaching them how to put together a marketing strategy for our clients. And it's just amazing. Like that's a lot of what my day is now is just really like empowering them and teaching them.
Very cool. I'm honestly excited to see what you're going to continue doing with the A team. Any like future exciting teasers or developments or projects you guys are working on that you can kind of tease with the audience or you just want to keep it close to the chest?
Well, I am writing a book. I'm not going to tell you the title, but it is kind of an offshoot of that Dummies book. It's a combination of how to in staffing and also more like mindset stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's another thing that I've been working on.
If people wanted to reach out to you and ask you questions, then where can they find you?
Yeah, well, they can find me on LinkedIn. And also my website is dianeprince.co. And so, yeah, those are good ways to find me. And I'm all over the place. But when you Google Diane Prince, I don't know if you know it's Wonder Woman's alias is Diana Prince. You got a lot of Princess Di and Wonder Woman, which I'm not going to argue about sharing a Google search with them. But dianeprince.co, not .com. That's some real estate agent in Florida, I think.
You're amongst a good crowd. Ryan, any last questions you want to ask Diane before we let her go?
I think I'm all good. Yeah, I appreciate it, Diane. This has been awesome. It's been great. Can hear a little more about your story and what you're working on now. And yeah, appreciate the time.
Guys, nice chatting with you.
Yeah, likewise, Diane. For someone that's in the recruiting and staffing, it's particularly very impressive to meet someone like yourself who just basically fell into entrepreneurism, fell into a staffing business. You worked really, really hard and you exited. exited. That's really, really amazing. And you did that a couple more times, and now you're working on another awesome project. So I'm frankly just very excited to meet you and also to kind of keep tabs and see what you and your team will continue to do into the future. And I have a pretty big, I would say, suspicion that maybe you and I will cross paths on the surf waves or pickleball courts one of these days, Diane. So please continue to keep doing what you're doing. Really, again, thank you for your time and wish you and your team nothing but fantastic love and support and absolute success.
Thanks, guys.
You got it. Take care.